Hello and welcome to the Pop Pod. I am Sam, also known as Pop Sam Cam, and I am here to take you behind the scenes of the Miley Cyrus listening event that happened yesterday in New York. She played her new album, Something Beautiful, in full and also played the film. I've asked some of you for questions about that and I'm going to answer many of them. I'm excited to get straight into it, but before we do that, don't forget to follow or subscribe to the podcast if you're not already. We keep gathering more of you and I think that it's so exciting to build this pop music community, and we're doing so also on Discord where we're talking about all the new music releases. I also gave insight about this Miley Cyrus release event before anywhere else. So I will drop the Discord link in the show notes below. You should come and join that. Otherwise, make sure also that you've rated this podcast 5 stars. That really helps us out with exposure on Spotify and Apple as well. Enough admin, let's get into the headlines. The Met Gala happened a couple of days ago in New York, and obviously the big news from it was that Rihanna is pregnant with her 3rd child with A$AP Rocky. We actually haven't got an album from her since she started having babies. It's even been a lot longer than that, since she started working with Fenty Beauty, I guess. But the question on the red carpet was, will this pregnancy news delay the 9th album even further? To be honest, I don't think any baby's delaying this album. I think it's Rihanna who's delaying this album herself. But she did say that it isn't going to delay music at all because she can still sing, although it may delay a couple of videos.
Is this putting R9 on pause even longer? Because you were in production.
No, maybe a couple videos, but...
A couple videos?
I could sing.
Yes, you can.
We will see whether this album comes to fruition. Obviously, we've been waiting for so long. I would be happy to get anything at this point. Release lullabies if you want to. I will take it. Next up, Doja Cat is teasing her forthcoming album V, and it seems to have an 80s sound to it because she's teased one of the singles from it called Jealous Type in a Marc Jacobs ad, and it sounds very like Janet Jackson Prince-esque. I love this sound for her. I feel like this kind of pocket of 80s music has not been revisited enough. Obviously, the synth pop of it all has carried over into artists like Taylor Swift and Ariana Grande. So many, it's been one of the defining sounds of kind of like post-2010s pop music. But I really want to hear what she does with this. She turned up to the Met Gala in a very 80s inspired costume as well. So I feel like this is going to be a very solid, cohesive era from her. I'm very excited to hear it. No word on when the album is coming yet, but she continues to drop features, and she also dropped off a new song called Crack. Sorry, not exactly a new song. It's an old song that fans really wanted to hear, an unreleased one. She dropped it for free on her website. I feel like in doing that, she was collecting emails, so she's ready to blast out this new song when it comes. I will keep you updated on that. There is plenty of new music to look forward to this week, though. A lot, actually. I feel like last week was not that great for new music. This week is very good. We have the Kali Uchis album called Sincerely. We also have the Pink Pantheress mixtape. We have a new Miley Cyrus song called More to Lose, which I'll talk about later in the podcast.
I knew someday that one would have to choose. I just thought we had more to lose.
And we also have a new Tyler song called Bliss, which I think is sounding incredible. She initially teased it at Coachella, but we'll get the full version tomorrow. And I will be back for Bop or Flop to take you through all of this new music over on the charts. And it's KATSEYE we're talking about, a song called Gnarly, which caused quite a stir on Friday or last week when it was released, and initially didn't impact the charts that much, but it is now starting to gain some hype, and it is up 18 places to number 45 on the global Spotify charts with over 2 million streams.
Hottie, hottie, like a bag of Takis, I'm the shit. I'm the shit.
It is also looking at a potential debut on the Billboard Hot 100. I think that is incredible. This will be their first song to chart on the Billboard Hot 100, despite the fact that Touch actually had a little bit of virality, but it's this single that's doing it for them. And I love that they stuck their neck out with a song that was as kind of edgy and uncompromising as this one, and it really tripped people up on first listen, but it seems like it's working now and it is catching fire. I'm interested to know what you think of it. Let me know. Okay, let's talk about Miley Cyrus, her 9th album, Something Beautiful. I was invited to go and listen to the album and also watch the film in New York at a small cinema called Metrograph. It was basically an event for, I guess, creators, media, and then she also invited a couple of her biggest fans based on the Spotify statistics, I guess. Miley was there. She was watching the film. I didn't see her during that process, but afterwards she came and answered a few questions.
There's such a spectrum to beauty, and some of it incorporates heartbreak and loss or, death or pain, but sometimes it's flowers and rainbows, like I said, and new love, which I got to display on the screen.
I have been really excited to hear this new music because I felt with Endless Summer Vacation that she perhaps wasn't pushing it as far as she could. Obviously, it gave her a huge hit with Flowers, but I felt like it kind of sanded the edges down. And I love Miley when she's at her rawest and edgiest. Albums like Dead Pets and Plastic Hearts are the ones that I've really gravitated towards because I personally think she's one of the most fascinating pop figures. I think that she's got so much charisma. I think that she just has this kind of star aura that not many people have anymore. And she also has this kind of riskiness and unhinged sort of personality that I feel like can cross over into the music really well and give really exciting eras. And obviously we saw that with Bangers quite clearly when she kicks that off. But I've always been wondering when that side of Miley is going to pop back up. And I don't necessarily mean in the Bangers fashion, but I mean in the kind of like just pushing it to a place that not other pop stars will dare to go to. And I can happily say, after hearing that album, she has pushed it to that place. I think you might have been able to tell with Something Beautiful that she was going to do something quite experimental. The chorus of that is obviously just so widescreen and distorted and totally powerful in the way that she uses her voice there. And then End of the World sanded that down a bit, and we got a song that I think kind of typifies the production of this album, but is definitely the poppiest song on the record in terms of the most straight down the line. I love End of the World. I'm not sure why it hasn't resonated chart-wise.
Let's pretend it's not the end of the world.
I think given Prelude, Something Beautiful, and End of the World, I kind of had an idea of where this album was headed. I thought it was going to be sort of rock inspired. She's mentioned Pink Floyd as an influence when she's been talking about this record. And I thought that it was going to be maybe more alternative leading. We were going to get lots of guitars, lots of fuzziness. And that is true, I guess. The album does have this cohesive kind of production bed, which is fuzzy and is sort of rock inspired, but it's not exactly what the album has in store. And I thought that I knew what was coming, and More to Lose comes after End of the World. You will hear that one tomorrow. It's a ballad, but it's produced beautifully, and it definitely has the notes of Something Beautiful and End of the World. It goes into a track called Easy Lover, which has this sort of disco flair to it. Think like future nostalgia with a little bit of radical optimism in the pop, but done like Miley's way. It's danceable. Her vocals sound incredible. It's really soulful as well. And that song to me is the most straight down the line banger from the record. And I was like, okay, this album's probably a little bit more straight down the line than I expected it to be, because End of the World, More to Lose, and Easy Lover have a definitely like recognizable pop bed to them. And then it goes into Golden Burning Sun, and that's when everything just starts to expand. The world opens up. Her vocals are bigger. It's more soulful. It's the sound was just rumbling in the speakers, I feel like. And it's definitely got this element of 70s psychedelia to it. But then I couldn't predict where the album was going to go after that, because it goes into Walk of Fame. Walk of Fame has this like pounding dance beat. Think like River, but like turn it up to 11 from there. And it totally caught me by surprise. This was kind of the moment that it was kind of a jaw drop moment in the album, to be honest, because I wasn't expecting any dance floor bangers on this. And she moves into this way of dancing that reminds me a little bit of like Dirty Dancing-esque, but also like Robin Call Your Girlfriend video. She's on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and she's dancing around these stars and just giving like the performance of a lifetime. But also, you don't expect where the chorus of this song is going to go, because you think that you have an idea, you think that it's straight down the line, and then everything blurs and distorts, and her vocals are produced in this really interesting way. And it kind of takes it out of being maybe like the Fame Monster-esque or even Ray of Light-esque, and takes it into more of an alternative like lane. And I just feel like that typifies this album, that every time you think you know where it's going, you really don't. And the production, like, just at every single moment takes it into a different place. I can't remember if it's Easy Lover or Golden Burning Sun, where Brittany Howard, obviously of Alabama Shakes fame, but has also done solo stuff now, she features there, and like her appearance is just totally transcendent as well, and just housed to another plane. I forgot to add that in before. Pretend You're God then goes more into this kind of like experimental fashion. It's one of the more darker, distorted moments on the album, with probably the least accessible chorus of all the songs, maybe bar Something Beautiful. But by this stage, like Walk of Fame and Burning Sun have just locked you in so tightly that it doesn't really matter what mood she's going into, you're ready to follow her. And then when I've heard Pretend You're God and I'm ready to give up the dance floor banger thing because we've got Walk of Fame and I didn't expect that, you get Every Girl You've Ever Loved, which is perhaps the most danceable on the entire album. It goes straight into a house vibe. Naomi Campbell features on this one. It's got sort of like it's kind of an ode to Vogue by Madonna, but in a way that doesn't quite go into that ballroom kind of sound. It's definitely more in the electronic world. And again, the chorus just totally shocks you because it's so blurry and distorted and psychedelic and just like everything into this hazy pot, which I love so much. Then into Reborn, which I think is the song that kind of gives me Ray of Light Madonna the most. It's, again, a kind of four to the floor banger, but once again, twisting the formula and doing different things with it and giving us a chorus that feels like spiritual and liberating after it almost feels like you're going through the mud, particularly at the end of this album, because the production does take you into this kind of deep hole and then you're lifted out of it for Reborn. And the coolest part of this is that it totally switches up into the end into this really beautiful maximalist disco beat, which I thought was just such a nice way to bring, I guess, the main section of the album to a close, because then the credits roll and you get Give Me Love, which is a sweeter, like kind of more straight down the line track that just brings this like stormy sort of album to a close quite gently, which I really liked. And when Miley talked about this album, she talked about finding the beauty in like moments of turbulence and heartache where you really can't see anything beautiful in them, but they're the moments that really count in the end. And she talked about in the Q&A, she used this anecdote of when her house burnt down and everything she had was totally gone. But within that, she got to rebuild very purposefully and kind of cut some of the relationships, and she winked. We knew which relationship she was referring to.
It changed my life with anxiety to when something bad, we label as bad happens, to read it with excitement, because it always means that something's on the other side that's going to come from it. There's always a lesson. And so now when these things pop up in my life, instead of getting afraid or shutting down, I actually say bring it on, because I know that it's going to teach me something.
I guess that's the essence of Something Beautiful, because this album is so distorted at points and so kind of like distressed, I would say. It feels like furious and anxious at points, but then you always get this payoff that is like finding that beauty, and particularly in the film, there's so many beautiful moments in it as well. And I really like that. And she talked about the kind of link between this album and Dead Pets, in that Dead Pets found treasure in trash. That was kind of like the atmosphere of Dead Pets, particularly in the visual aesthetic of it. And she said that Something Beautiful like has a very similar sort of vibe to it, in that it is trying to find that kind of diamond in the rough, and it does that on so many points. It was honestly such an impressive first listening experience. I don't want to like rave too much about it because I have to hear it again and sit with it again. And I think when you hear something for the first time in a room full of people with the maker there, it is often easy to like blow it out of proportion. But the whole time I was thinking like, is this as good as I think it is? And I was checking myself along the way. And I really do think that I just wanted Miley to do something like this and really go for it. And I love that she did it. I was super, super impressed with the first listen. I did ask you guys to send me some questions about the album on Instagram. And if you're not following me on Instagram, you should, because that's where I ask most of the questions that I answer on the podcast. But you sent through, and I'm going to choose a couple of the questions. The first one being, do the two singles give a good example of the sound of the album? I presume you're talking about Something Beautiful and End of the World, but I can include More to Lose in this. And the answer is no. I think I answered it before, but I don't think End of the World gives any hints to where the end of the album goes particularly. She definitely sets a tone that she keeps quite cohesively for the rest of the album, but End of the World gives no hint to the kind of beats that come in particularly towards the end of the album. So I think if you were lukewarm on End of the World, or you felt that it wasn't giving you exactly what you need, there is plenty more to dig into on the album. Is it her best yet? This is obviously a very difficult one to answer just off one listen, but I personally think her best album is Plastic Hearts. And the reason why I think that is because that's when I felt her going for it vocally. I felt her kind of trashing any commercial expectation. And as soon as I got home last night, I put on Plastic Hearts because I wanted to measure it up. And honestly, Plastic Hearts sounds so clean and measured in comparison to what this album gives you. I mean, we're talking songs that like stretch 5-6 minutes. We're talking like some of the haziest production. I've used that word so much, but it's the word to describe it. The haziest production she's ever done. And, you know, there was something like quite clear cut about the rock that she was referencing on Plastic Hearts. And I think she was going particularly into a very 60s and 70s sound. This album is in a totally different pocket and way more expansive than Plastic Hearts. So in that sense, yeah, I can see me in 6 months' time calling this her best album. Do you still doubt the marketing strategy? Yeah, I mean, it was clear that the third person thing didn't work. And I think that Miley really wanted to present this album as it's intended to be listened to. And that's why we're getting every track in the sequence of the album and slowly building together this puzzle piece that is the film, this puzzle that is the film. I almost wonder if this would have worked better if she just dropped it all at once, to be honest, because the singles are kind of a red herring as much as they do like let us know that she's going in a much more experimental direction. But it is so impactful as a full package that I do wonder whether that would have been the better option, because I was thinking about singles, and as much as like you'll hear me reference Gaga and Madonna with tracks like Walk of Fame and Reborn and think like, why is that the single? You'll understand when you hear them why they're not the single. They're totally not radio ready. And to be honest, I don't think she really cares about anything being radio ready. So in that manner, yeah, I do doubt the marketing strategy, but I do think that once the album drops, the attention I think that the temperature on this record is going to change quite significantly, because I could feel it change in the room last night. For those who loved bangers, will we be happy? No, not really. I mean, there's not really any notes of bangers on this record. I'm trying to think of any songs that you can match up to. Maybe More to Lose to Wrecking Ball.
I never meant to start a war. I just wanted you to let me in.
I don't know, that type of synth pop / hip-hop based production is totally missing from this record. If you like the Mike Will Made It production that he's done with Miley, I would be looking more at tracks like Lighter off Dead Pets to give you a hint of the direction of this record.
Did you roll another one? You wanna get higher?
More than I would anything on Bangers. There's nothing like We Can't Stop or that kind of stuff. I think Bangers is perhaps the album it's least like, because I could hear notes throughout it of like Can't Be Tamed, even that kind of like wanting to break out sort of fashion that she gives to us on Can't Be Tamed, and those kind of 4 to the floor beats that pop up on songs like Who Owns My Heart.
Who owns my heart? Is it love or is it art?
There's definitely an element of that in this. And then Endless Summer Vacation, I think there's moments of that in it, but just pushed so much harder. Plastic Hearts with the rock element, obviously Dead Pets with the experimental element. There's not a lot of Hannah Montana in this. But yeah, I can hear little pieces of all of her albums. Bangers is the one I actually struggle with. Would you say it's just as experimental as Dead Pets? In a totally different way, in that I think Dead Pets is experimental by way of it was just totally unedited and raw. And this album doesn't have that same feeling to it. It's much more purposeful than Dead Pets is.
I try to be precise but not perfect, because I don't really care about being perfect, but I do care about being purposeful.
But at the same time, there was a spirit in Dead Pets where you got the feeling that she really didn't care about the charts and just wanted to make something that felt like so unique to her and exactly what was inside her. And that's the sort of thing that is carried over onto Something Beautiful, which I really love about it. Are there any radio-friendly bangers? Look, we've touched on this. Not really. No, I think End of the World was one of the biggest ones, but I do think there's a potential hit in Easy Lover, because I think that is one of the most straight down the line tracks on the album. And it also is quite danceable, and it's also quite contemporary as well, but done in the Something Beautiful filter. So I think if there's a major hit off this album, it is Easy Lover. Could this make your top 3 Miley albums? I mean, I'm happy to make a call now and say it's easily in the top 3 Miley albums by pure fact of how adventurous it is and how much I've been craving a Miley album that goes to this space and just turns everything up to 11. And it totally does that. So yeah, I would say maybe my top 3 is, and maybe I will rank them properly when the album comes out, but maybe my top 3 right now is Something Beautiful, Plastic Hearts, and then it's a toss-up between Bangers and Dead Pets. But I think of my personal taste, I will go with Dead Pets. That is all your questions. I think I've covered the whole experience. Obviously, sorry if I've spoiled anything, but I also don't think I have spoiled anything, because you will not be ready for the sound that she brings on this record. It was a very exciting night. It was cool to see Miley in the flesh. It was cool to see how excited she was about this album, and for good reason. It was great to hear the album alongside the film, and I purposefully haven't talked that much about the film because it's really difficult to describe. It is a performance piece more so than a narrative-driven movie, but you will see that when it all comes out on the 30th of May. I will be back tomorrow for Bop or Flop with producer Jono as well. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to the podcast, and also rate it 5 stars so you can help us out on Spotify or Apple. Come and join the Discord if you want to, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.